Is your marriage on the brink of divorce? Are you guys always fighting over money, over the kids? Or is there cheating going on? Or you're in a healthy relationship but you just want to find ways to make it more sustainable and long lasting? I thought I'd share 15 tips on how to have a successful, healthy relationship. Hi guys, it's your girl Nikki and welcome back to the Nickilicious family. If you're new, subscribe, comment, hit that bell, and become a member of the family. It's that simple. Full disclaimer, I am not a relationship guru or expert, but what I am is a woman who has dated the wrong man and been in love with the right man for over 13 years, married for 10. There's certain things that I've learned along the way. And so I want to share those tips with you. Another full disclaimer, guys, no relationship is perfect, and mine is no exception. But here are my top 15 best kept secrets. And without further ado, let's get into it. My tip number one is to marry somebody that you are compatible with. And when I say compatible, I mean compatible physically, spiritually. You have the same views on how you're going to raise kids. You like to do the same things, most of it. You're not going to do everything the same, but they're compatible. And why is this important? Remember, marriage goes through ebbs and flows. And with these changing seasons in marriage, you want to know that that person is going to grow with you in the first place, but they are going to be compatible, that they're even going to want to do that. And that is going to maintain and sustain a relationship for years to come. Trust. Compatibility also has to do with just how the social values that you have, the way you view money, just your views on certain important issues, even politics, the way politics is going these days. Everything is important that you have that compatibility, that attraction to that person from the outset. And that is very important because when the problems hit, that compatibility is going to be what sustains. Tip number two, divorce is not an option. Chris and Bruce Jenner, Ben Stiller and Christine Taylor, Shannon and Jenna Dewan Tatum. What do these couples have in common? They are married for many years and they call it quits. Kris Jenner and Bruce Jenner, 24 years. Shannon and his wife, 9 years, 1 kid. Ben Stiller and his wife, 17 years. If you decide from the outset that you are not going to put that divorce word on the table, then you're giving your relationship that extra fighting power, that extra impetus for you guys to stick it out. And so decide from the beginning that divorce is not an option, so that when the problems hit, then you know you're going to fight through. Tip number 3, respect your partner. Hey guys, most of you would think that I'm a very attractive woman. So my husband is an attractive man himself. Do you think that we're the only ones who are attracted to each other? No. It definitely means you have to have a respect for your partner, that when the distractions come and those other persons tempt you, you would know ahead of time that you have enough respect for your partner to not even look twice at anybody else. When you respect your partner, you respect their opinion, you respect everything that they stand for, and that alone would lead you to want to keep them in the forefront of your mind when any temptation comes, when any distractions come. And so that respect, men, respect is the most important thing for them. So women, respect your man. Men, do the same thing for your women. Tip number 4, guys, is build and maintain trust. A relationship without trust is like a car without gas. You can stay in it all you want, but you'll never get anywhere. Trust is something that makes you feel so confident in that person that you could sleep and not worry. They could go out and you not worry that they're out there doing, something bad to make you feel uncomfortable or to lose trust in them. Marriage is a financial institution, so should you be in a financial arrangement with somebody that you don't trust? Should you raise kids with somebody that you don't trust, trust is the cornerstone of a relationship. And one of the ways I maintain trust with my husband is I try to be transparent with him as much as possible, and he does the same. And before anybody gets a chance to tell him something that happened or something, whether it's good or bad, I make sure to disclose it to him so that he knows ahead of time that my wife already told me that. I already know that. And that maintains trust in our relationship. By no means would I want to trust somebody 100%, but I want to at least trust them 90 to 98% of the time. And that is a relationship that will last long. Hey guys, for me, trust is the new sexy. Number 5 is don't be a nag and have good communication with your partner. Hey family, do I look like a nag to you? I don't consider myself to be a nag, but my husband does. And that is the most important fact that I want to point out to you guys. Don't be a nag to your partner. And by not being a nag, you should communicate effectively with them. One thing I wish I knew when I got married was how to be a better communicator to my husband. Oftentimes, my good intentions were not being received by him in that way because I did not know how to communicate them. And so, ladies, we have to learn to just accept our husbands for their faults as they accept us with our faults. And we would not criticize them so much. If we had to have a criticism, let us do it in a constructive way that they receive it. Hey, honey, don't you think that we should, as opposed to saying, that it's your fault that we did that. Why did you do that? There's a way in which you communicate that they will receive it. And so nobody wants to come home to a nag. Nobody wants to come home to somebody who's always criticizing them. So don't be a nag. Tip number 7, guys, for me that I've learned in my marriage is to support my partner, especially in hard times. You're going to lose a loved one. You're going to lose your health. Things are going to decline. They're going to have problems, and one thing they'll always remember is that you were there for them in their time of need, and you'll always remember that they were there for you. And trust me, when a relationship goes through struggles and you know that your partner was there for you in the good times, when you get back on your feet, you will never forget it. And no man or woman out there will be more tempting to your partner because they know what they've been through with you, and they know that you were there for them, and that person has zero chance of getting involved. Tip number 8 is to maintain your look and the same energy that they met you with. Nobody wants to be married to somebody that they're no longer attracted to. Nobody wants to be married to someone who they can't stand. So the same person that they met, as much as you could maintain yourself physically, eating right, having your good sleep habits, exercise if you can. I know things will change with pregnancy. Things will change. They're not going to be the same physically exactly, but as much as you can maintain the same energy, the same spirit, the same look, that person will maintain their interest, their love for you. I never like to reveal my age, but I've been teaching for the past 22 years. And one thing that persons always tell me is that I basically look the same. I don't allow the stresses of my job and the stress of life to really take a toll on me. I also have a chronic disease called Graves' disease, and it's important that I maintain my health not only for my husband, but just for me to be happy. A happy person makes a happy partner. And in going with this, I also want you, in maintaining your look, also have room to grow. If you are immature or you had some negative habits, also grow. Have room to grow into that better person that you want to be. Even though you're maintaining the essence of you, still be able to grow. Tip number 9 is establish clear rules for raising your kids if you have them. Marriages have been impacted by kids because many couples have huge fights because of disagreements about how to raise their kids. And so from the outset, what I learned is that decide from early where you want your child to go in terms of a church. For myself and my husband, I'm Anglican. I was raised Anglican, but he's Seventh-day Adventist, and we decided from the outset that our son would be raised in the Adventist church, so that lessen the problems and the conflicts as it relates to religion. Also, be able to not compromise on your rules, because children, they know their parents' weak areas and their weak spots, and they play on them. And so if you're not on one accord, they will play you against each other, and you'll be fighting all the time because of kids. And so once you establish set rules, you will have less conflicts over. Number 10 is be unpredictable, be spontaneous. Ladies, your man doesn't marry the woman who is perfect, marries the woman who is interesting. And so my tip number 10 is be spontaneous, maintain your individuality, and just be unpredictable. And that interest will be sparked at all times. Now, I try to be goofy and be giddy-headed when I just try to live life to have fun. And sometimes, persons be saying, oh gosh, she is just going overboard. But I just love being me and being the, goofy person when I want to be, because that keeps me interesting. And one thing, when you're in a relationship with somebody who's interesting, you never get bored, even if you're wondering, what is she up to today? What is she doing? So when you're spontaneous, you don't take yourself too seriously. Well, I can't take myself too seriously. You maintain your individuality, you go after your goals, and you're busy still doing you. Then you won't be that preoccupied trying to watch what your husband is doing and trying to, just be fixated on negative things. You are busy having a positive experience on your own. And so when you guys come together, you keep it interesting, because he's doing the same thing. He's being spontaneous. He's, keeping it fresh. You're not wondering why they're doing the same thing over and over. They become so predictable. You could say, okay, this is what they're going to do. That's boring. And that leads to persons wanting to explore other persons or other things. So when you keep yourself goal-oriented, you keep yourself interesting, then your partner is going to keep. Tip number 11 is to watch the words that you say. And even if you, being human, say the wrong words, be willing to apologize. Words hurt longer and harder than if you threw a stone at somebody. A person, especially my husband, he never forgets that harmful word that you would have said 20 years from now. He still remember that on day one you said this to him. And so I use that as my learning tool and advice to people to be careful what you say to your partner. Make sure that you use words that are affirming, that build them up and not break them down. And if you mistakenly do the wrong thing, be willing to apologize, because that apology could make or break your relationship. Some persons, they prefer to deal with problems head on, and sometimes that anger can lead you to say things that are hurtful in anger. So sometimes if you know you're going to be angry, you're going to say the wrong things, it's good to step away, calm down, and come back together when you have cleared your mind, and you can clear the air with your partner and be mindful of the things that you're saying. You're in control of the things that you're saying. That way you don't damage your relationship irreparably by saying hurtful things that could damage or cause them to pull away from you. Tip number 12 is accept your partner unconditionally. For me, when I take off this makeup, I am me, and I'm confident that I am truly loved by him. Love for my flaws, goofy and all, and I feel that this is one of the first relationships that I could really be myself with that person and know that I am loved and I'm accepted. I remember a story that was told to me of a woman who nagged about her husband, who just was a messy person, and then he died. And then she said she would give anything for her husband to be alive again so that he could make that mess. And what I learned from that story is to just accept my partner. One of the fatal mistakes that we make as women, as soon as we land a man, we try to change them in every way, shape, or form. And that only leads them to pull away from you and to find somebody else who will accept them. And so my tip to you, especially if you have that nagging issue in your relationship, is to just be less critical, more accepting, because if you lose your partner today, you would wish that they could be on earth again to nag you. So that's my tip number 13 is to just have fun with each other. And if you want to have date nights to have fun, do that, but just be somebody that is easy to be around. And I had to learn that over time, and I'm still learning that, because sometimes you get distracted by life, you get bogged down by stuff, and you just lose that fun factor, that fun way about you. And it's good to laugh with each other and even laugh at yourself with each other. And so keep that fun aspect of your relationship going, and you will have longevity in your relationship. Tip number 14 is something that I learned from my marriage counselor when I did premarital counseling. And he told me, and I never forget, is to have an inner core or inner circle in your marriage where your husband and yourself are the inner circle, and then you have an outer circle of friends, and then you have the outer circle, which is everybody else. And never let people get into that inner circle. And so be careful of the things that you tell your family and friends about your partner, because even when you have forgotten it in that moment of anger, they never do, and they always bring it up. And persons outside of your marriage can negatively impact your marriage with their comments and their viewpoints and just their opinions. And so keep them at bay. And certain things that are pillow talk between yourself and your husband, keep it that way. That is the best way to keep a healthy, long-lasting relationship or marriage together. My final tip is tip number 15, and that is regularly check in with your spouse. Sometimes we get bogged down by our day-to-day routine that we don't check in with our spouse, and sometimes we may be overconfident in our belief that everything is good with our partner, and maybe it really isn't. And so if you have regular check-in, how are you doing? What are you thinking about our relationship? How is what are your thoughts? Are you good? Are you happy? Are we, just check in with them, and just, even if you're not checking in with words, just be in tune with what's going on with them, so that you know that you guys are still in sync with each other, not out of sync. Because one thing for sure is that relationships, they grow apart. And so if you don't keep checking in with your partner, you will miss those. Guys, if you love these tips, just like and subscribe. If you have tips that you could give me to make my marriage even better than it is, I welcome them. Drop them in the comments section. Until next time, guys. See you.